It is the second day of ASRIN annual meeting EH. My name is Mohammed Mabrouk. I am going to be your housekeeping today. We'll start with the keynote speaker, Mr. Fahd Batayneh from ICANN. Is he around? I was planning to skip the first.
So I'll be speaking in Arabic, please. But I have my slides in English, so probably that'll help.
We don't have the interpreter.
Ah, okay. Never mind. I'll speak in English then. That's fine. No problem. Okay. So good morning, everybody. My name is.
You want the interpreter?
No, he's not actually. I'll speak in English. Never mind. I think it'll be easier for everybody. So either way works. So good morning, everybody. My name is Fahd Batayneh. I work for ICANN. I would like to thank ASRIN for inviting me to attend this event. I've been doing this event since 2013 in Tunisia. And actually, if you look at the agenda, I was supposed to speak something completely different. But then I've been thinking about it for the past 2 days, and I decided that I'll change my presentation, and I'll be talking more about academia and about ICANN and our engagement with academia and the academic sector. So one thing worth talking about is what is ICANN. So ICANN stands for the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. ICANN is a not-for-profit organization. We are responsible for 3 aspects of the Internet, or let's say work on them very closely. One is names, and that is domain names. The other is IP addresses, whether version 4 or version 6. And we work very closely with the regional internet registries who actually distribute these IP addresses and allocate them, and of course build policies around them with their members. And the third part that we work on is also protocol parameters. Of course, protocol parameters is the work of the Internet Engineering Task Force, something that falls under the Internet Society. But ICANN, of course, through the technical arm, which is the IANA, has the repository that actually lists all these RFCs. So in a nutshell, it's really names, numbers, and protocols. So there are a couple of things that ICANN does. One thing I can tell you for a fact is that ICANN does not run the entire internet. So there is this whole myth and misconcept that ICANN runs the whole internet. Our mandate on the internet is really very limited. And as I explained in my previous slide, it's domain names, IP addresses, and protocols. So, and this slide really kind of summarizes what we do. So we are involved in domain names. We work on policy development, and specifically it's policy development of domain names. We also operate a couple of other things like root servers, and of course we have the IANA functions, which I'm not going to get into details. But of course, if anybody's interested to know more about them, I'll be happy to explain further. ICANN has a very unique model actually in developing policies. And whether we develop policies or we develop, let's say, technical standards, it's really the work of the community. So it's not us as ICANN staff who build policies, and it's definitely not us as ICANN staff who develop some of the technical standards. And I'll explain to you what I mean by technical standards in a while. Of course, our policy development process at ICANN is done in a bottom-up, consensus-driven, multi-stakeholder approach. And of course, this image or this slide depicts how policy development is done at ICANN. So we can see different stakeholders involved in ICANN's work. So for example, we have governments, we have the private sector, we have the domain name industry, we have intergovernmental organizations, civil society, end users, and of course we also have the academic sector. And the academic sector is a key component of the ICANN community. Now, there are a couple of things that ICANN really engages closely with academia. So one thing that's really worth mentioning is that while academia does exist in ICANN's ecosystem, academia's role in ICANN's ecosystem is quite... we would really like to see more academics and more academic institutes and more academic students being part of ICANN's work. And of course, some of the things that we really work closely with are research and education networks, and of course universities. So again, one thing we would really like to see more of academia is to be part of the policy development process, because at the end of the day, if we don't have a hat representing, let's say, a certain stakeholder group. Eventually, we are all end users. So at the end of the day, we are all end users, and whatever affects the internet affects us and affects probably our behavior in using the internet. One initiative we do a lot with academia is raising awareness. We do a lot of academic lectures at universities. We talk to students on a wide array of topics. So we talk about internet governance, we talk about ICANN's work and the IANA, we talk about domain names, we also zoom in at entrepreneurship opportunities and technical opportunities that one can find. Recently, around 1.5 years ago, we embarked on a partnership with the CCK, which is the Research and Education Network of Tunisia, and I'm not sure if Dr. Habib is here, Habib Youssef. So we have been working with them on bi-monthly events. Well, actually, it's an event every 2 months where they go to different universities around Tunisia, and for each event, a half to 1 day workshop is given on several aspects or several topics, covering, of course, several topics related to the unique identifier system. So you would find on the agenda a session for ICANN, a session on IPv4 and IPv6, sessions on DNS operations and DNSSEC. And of course, students can come from different backgrounds. So they can be technical, computer science, computer engineering, or they can be non-technical, political science, or any other major. And of course, we fine-tune the agenda of the workshop based upon the background of the students. Sometimes some academics approach us asking us if there are any ideas for projects and research and graduation projects, etc. And yes, we do have a couple of really interesting topics that academics can actually do research on. So one topic is called internationalized domain names. These are domain names that are written in non-English, or let's say non-ASCII. So you can write domain names in Arabic, Chinese, in Cyrillic, in Latin, or in any other language or script. Of course, there are many issues with IDNs, so they're not compatible with all software tools. They have issues with search engines. When it comes to using internationalized domain names for emails, there are some issues. I mean, I can say for a fact that many of these issues have been solved, but sometimes you don't look at a problem as a standalone. You sometimes have to integrate it within a wider ecosystem. So for example, when we talk about email integration, yes, there are today, you can see email IDs in non-English languages, so you can see email IDs in Arabic. But the problem is this cross-platform communication most of the time does not work. So for example, if I have an Arabic email ID under Gmail, and I'd like to send it to send an email to a colleague who has an English email ID under Yahoo, would Yahoo accept, or would Yahoo understand my Arabic email ID or not? So this is one other issue. We have one other topic that we work on is DNSSEC. DNSSEC is more of a security extension for domain names. And in fact, DNSSEC works on a public-private key infrastructure. And actually, earlier last year, ICANN embarked on a project where we will be changing these keys, both the public key and the private keys. And of course, this is a really big project. And if it doesn't work, actually, you will find misbehavior on the internet, especially when it comes to domain names. This rollover was actually supposed to happen in October of this year, like around 2 months ago, but they realized that many of the DNS resolvers are not actually accepting the new keys, and so we decided to halt, postpone, let's say, the rollover. Now, this aspect of why some of the DNS resolvers are not accepting these new keys is something my colleagues at the technical office are investigating, and I think, and I understand that they actually have an intern who's helping them understand this odd behavior. So again, that's another place where we see that academia can play a really key role in understanding why this behavior happened and how to actually resolve it moving forward. Academics can build software platforms around registries and registrars. So registry is really the entity that, or let's say the platform that operates a top-level domain. So I mean, .com is a registry, .net is a registry, and so on. And of course, you have registrars, and those are the entities that actually you go to and register domain names like GoDaddy and eNom. And these are really tools that you can develop, and there has been a lot of innovation in this field. Let's say different software developers kind of add different flavor to these different platforms, and at the end of the day, the end user, or let's say the entity, the beneficiary, can assess what their needs are, and based on their needs, they can actually decide which tool that they want. We had an expansion to the internet top-level domain system in 2012. So today you actually see many new top-level domains. So until recently, we all knew about .com and .org and .edu. Today we have many new names. So you have city names like .Dubai or .Paris. You also have city names in Arabic, for example, like .Abu Dhabi. You have brand names like .bmw and .barclays. We also have generic names like .xyz or .buzz. And actually, when these new top-level domains were introduced, they kind of created the segmentation of the top-level domain space. So until recently, I mean, everybody would, if I want to register a generic name, I would just go to .com, or maybe .net would be a second option. But today you have more options, and you can actually register under these options. So when the different operators or owners of these new names, I mean, before they got into the market, they again many of them approached academia to help in actually developing strategic plans, marketing plans, sales plans, and many other different plans to actually promote these new products. I mean, I know of one instance where one owner was literally able to convince a master's program at a university in the United States to actually introduce a one-semester course to 25 students who were doing a master's degree in entrepreneurship to develop a strategic plan for his new name. And so that was one of the ideas. Other than ICANN, some of our partners or some of our sister organizations actually have academic programs. So for example, the RIPE NCC, which is the entity that distributes IP addresses to both Europe and the Middle East. They have a program, an academic program called RACI. RACI is where they actually encourage, let's say, research on issues related to IP addresses and networking. And if your research is really of strong note, they fund you to actually showcase your research at some of the events that they hold. In some universities around the world, topics on internet governance and domain names have actually been added to curriculum. One good example I can share with you is that in Morocco, a university in Rabat was actually introduced a couple of years ago an entire course on internet governance, where students spend one full semester learning about internet governance. In Europe, this has become a trend. And in fact, there are a couple of master's and PhD programs that are dedicated to learning more on internet governance and zooming in on some of the work that ICANN or the other organizations do. And of course, last but not least, we have internship opportunities, but I can say for a fact that internship opportunities are usually limited. At this point in time, of course, they are limited to our hub offices, so we have a couple of regional offices around the world. So for the Middle East and Africa, the regional office is in Istanbul, and in Istanbul we actually have a couple of interns who are spending 4 months getting to work with ICANN and this whole internet ecosystem. I'll stop there. Happy to take any questions. I'm not sure how the format is, and I'm not sure if I have any more time, but I'll be around the whole day, hopefully. And if anybody's interested in any of the work that is done with ICANN, we can talk together and explore the possibility of doing something together. Thank you.
Actually, we have plenty of time for questions.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and I start with questions Could you please elaborate more on your relationship with ICANN? Because
Sure.
part of the attendees here are from North Africa,
Right.
part of the Middle East.
Sure.
So
Okay, so that's a good question. So RIPE-NCC or even Afrinic, so in Egypt, for example, and our colleagues from Africa, they get their IP address allocation from Afrinic. So whether Afrinic or RIPE-NCC, they are called regional internet registries. We call ourselves the ISTA organizations in addition to ISAC, of course. We also sometimes call ourselves sister organizations. Now, the relationship between ICANN and RIPE-NCC or even Afrinic is that ICANN is the policy development body. Now, within ICANN, we have something called the Public Technical Identifiers, or it used to be called the IANA. And IANA is the technical arm. So when ICANN is the policy arm, IANA or PTI is the technical arm. Now, PTI distributes the IP addresses to the different regional internet registries, whether RIPE-NCC or Afrinic or any of the other three regional internet registries. And of course, when those IP addresses go to the regional internet registries, they work on policies with their community to distribute these IP addresses. Of course, we never work independently. We always work together. So, I mean, I demonstrated to you academic engagement. Together, we do a lot of capacity development. So, for example, we have my colleague Kevin here from ISOC, who works for the Internet Society, and we meet a lot at many events around the region because our work could be of interest to people we address, and of course at the same time ISOC's work could be of interest. And in many other instances we also are with colleagues from RIPE-NCC and Afrinic, and so we all work together really. I'm not sure if that addresses your question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure meeting you too.
My question is, if you want to collaborate with academia in a certain country, what is the organization you will communicate with? Is it ML, or can you communicate or get sort of collaboration with the university?
Okay. Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, we do have some contacts at some universities. So, for example, last week I was in Lebanon. I was communicating with the gentleman next to you, Dr. Walid, on an academic engagement. I mean, I know him, I have his contact, so I said, I mean, we can maybe do something there. Sometimes we speak to our contacts there. They could be non-academic contacts. Like, for example, in Sudan, I speak a lot with the regulator, and they help me actually doing some academic engagement. So it really depends. I mean, if I know academics in a country, I speak to them directly, and we can do a workshop, or maybe if I don't know academics there, I can talk to my other contacts who can actually help me arrange for something. Now, speaking of our academic engagement with CCK in Tunisia, we have known Dr. Yusuf Habib for quite some time, and of course we have a lot of contacts there. And I mean, through those contacts, we felt that we can maybe do some streamlined and predefined kind of academic engagement in Tunisia. And the Tunisians have been very cooperative. They have also been very serious about this initiative. And of course, Tunisia has a very vibrant internet community, if you may say. And actually, one thing I forgot to mention is that in Tunisia in specific, ICANN has never flown into Tunisia for any of the workshops that were done by CCK. We actually have a couple of prominent and well-expert community members from around the ecosystem based in Tunisia who are actually responsible for delivering the different workshops and different materials. So yeah, I mean, we can do it in many different ways. If you're still part of the Research and Education Network in Sudan, maybe we can talk about replicating this experience in Sudan, and we'll be happy to do that together.
Thank you. I am from Morocco. We are working with Batayneh. Is there any similar program as RICE in Africa?
Okay, so that's a good question. And to be frank with you, I mean, I don't follow Afrinic very much, but I can get you in touch with the right people at Afrinic, and maybe you might want to investigate this with them. But from what I recall at least, is that this whole concept of RICE was introduced by RIPE-NCC just very recently, like around 1.5 years ago. I'm not sure if any of the other RIAs has replicated this experience. But yeah, I mean, we can definitely check. I mean, I can get you in touch with some contacts there, and we can investigate this. And actually, speaking of Morocco, you have Dr. Aziz Hilali, who's he was actually the one who introduced this internet governance course at his university. So yeah.
much, Fahd.
Thank you so much. I'll be around here and I'll be happy to talk to you for any possible academic engagements. Thank you.